This content is brought to you in association with my buddies over at Jam Jam Cards UK. You can find the links to the eBay store and the Facebook page in the description. Hi guys, it's Joe here from Rufioh. We've got Adam on the channel today, one of my fellow Scousers, so always good to have that Liverpool representation on the channel. Nice and good stuff. Usually you'll have seen him around events doing judging. However, today we are looking at him for his playing merits. So it's nice, of course, to get him on here. I believe this is his first top as well. So huge congratulations on that, of course. So anything you want to state before we get stuck into the list?
I just have a couple of shout-outs to do. There's actually 4. Shout-out to Ridge Fever, Matt Feenan, and Anti-Finity. The latter drove us to Bangor. We wouldn't have been able to get there and play if he hadn't come with us. And they were actually had a flat tyre when we were going. We went over a massive hill, punctured the tyre. It was great. And lastly to Jake Pankhurst for giving me the most challenging last round of a game of Yugioh that I've ever experienced in my life, ever. Yeah, so there's my shout out.
I guess it helps feeling the pressure as well, like last round as well, like gotta win.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I've been testing this now for about 4 weeks, maybe. I love fusion decks. Like I loved Thunder Dragon. Colossus was one of my favorite cards, with the exception of Judgment Dragon and Trish. Colossus was like the most recent love for myself.
Yeah,
and when obviously it went, I took sort of a backseat in regards to it. I sort of flip flop in and out of the game quite a lot. But with this deck, it was I just love fusion decks, so I had to get into it properly again when it got released. I just had to. It was non-optional.
Yeah, fair enough. It is a really cool. It's probably the best fusion deck that I think we've had in a little while, and it's nice to see that they're kind of pushing different extra deck options, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got Sword Soul as well, which is obviously really, really good in the format. So you've got a Synchro deck and a Fusion deck there that are up there. I don't know what Therian's currently doing. I feel like they're more of a toolbox in regards to doing different things.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see what happens next. I mean, obviously with the Albaz cards, we usually get a fusion monster based on Albaz X monster from X archetype, so I wouldn't be too surprised if we get a Therian fusion at some point, which would be quite interesting to see, because obviously the mirror blade is the Ice Jade. You've got the Sprind, which is the Spriggans one.
Yeah,
it's an interesting time to be playing the archetype, which is why I really like it. I can see it'll only get better as well. I love the lores, to be fair. Like I loved like the Orcus lore as well. Like Orcus was one of my favorite decks. Galatea is just a great card. Like especially put Nightmare to 1. It's fine. Put, exchange Nightmare for 1. Put Mermaid. Bring MA back.
What could possibly happen with that?
Strike a tier 0 again.
Jesus, yeah. Hopefully not. They've had too much success even recently, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah, it's coming back, isn't it? It's very slowly but very surely.
Yeah, please don't. All right, cool. Let's get stuck into this. Just before we do, actually, can I check? See, it was the Bangor Regional, and you finished.
I finished 6th. I actually thought I finished 5th, but I finished 6th. I know it was a 20, I believe, 7-person tournament. I could be incorrect on that one. It was a very small regional because Sheffield was on the same day.
Yeah.
But it was still, there were players still there. European champion Owen Wilson was there, for example. Congratulations to him for winning the event.
Yeah.
It was still, there was a decent enough caliber there in order for me to, I take pride in the 6th place, basically.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely.
So yeah, that's just my outlook on it. So yeah, it was Bangor Regional in Wales. We set off pretty early for it. It was a well-run event as well. Yeah, I have no complaints about the event whatsoever.
Okay.
Hall is a great head judge.
Good stuff. All right, cool. Well, let's get something to the actual list here. So I have looked at this provisionally, and I'm sure people watching are going to have questions. So because this is an interesting list, so you're going to talk me through it. So we'll start off with. Sorry, I'm pressing the wrong thing here. We'll start off with Albaz itself. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Is 3 like, I'm not super educated on the deck, so you'll have to tell me. Okay. Is 3 kind of standard for Albaz, do you think?
3 is fairly standard. A lot of people playing 2. I like 3 because obviously you can win or lose the die roll. It's totally random. If you go second, you can effectively fuse using itself and X monsters from X side of the from your opponent's side of the field. That's always pretty good to do. If you have a branded lost on the board as well, it's just insane. A lot of people are playing ad libitum, and I know this has been asked of me, why didn't you play ad libitum? Because I felt it didn't get anything particularly going. If I opened it, it wouldn't get me from A to B. I didn't want, because I was playing 3 super polymerization. Obviously, a card has to be on the field in order for it to fuse and someone using it, and I couldn't do that using the ad libitum in hand.
Yeah.
So it didn't get me anywhere. That's why I didn't play that libitum, and I dropped the shroud as well because you use the shroud effect to send the sword. You banish the sword to add the Mercuria from deck, whereas the branded loss can just do that for you anyway. So I feel like it was just adding in extra steps to do the same thing.
Yeah.
That I just didn't particularly want to play any traps in the main. It was solely just, right, let's just get up and make this thing go. And that was why I played 3 Albaz.
Okay, cool. Fair enough. That makes sense. On to Mercuria. I think this is kind of, people flip between 1 and 3, right? That's pretty standard.
Well, so they do. However, I've been actually playing none. It was only the day before the event I thought, I'm going to play 1 Mercuria. I feel like I know it's a must-have in the deck in regards to like hand negation and stuff. And the reason why I actually put it in like, I think it was like after locals the day before. I wasn't going to play it, and the reason why I wasn't going to play it is because I wanted more board presence compared to what I can use in hand. Like, you'll see from the hand traps that I play, like I only played 5 monsters and the hand trap sort of ratio, and it worked really well. The Mercuria to play the 1 in hand, I kept finding that I'd open it and I'd usually just get rid of it for something, and it didn't do enough for me until I thought about it, and I was, well, if my opponent has a Mercuria and a monster that requires a Fawn of Albaz fusion on the field, then theirs is live. They'll have theirs in hand to do things, and I won't. So it's basically, I'd much rather be on an equal playing field and have that negate than not have it and my opponent have it, if that makes sense. That was basically why I played the 1 Mercuria. I feel like I didn't want to play it. I kind of had to play it. I see why a lot of people are playing 3. That way, if you open 1 of, it's not necessarily a break. It's preference. I think a lot of it's good. It'll be interesting to see where the deck goes with Mercuria in future, I think.
Okay, fair enough. And then, of course, normally, like with this, you get people playing Springen's Kit, which you've omitted from your list as well.
Yeah, I didn't. I decided to not play Kit because it was an extra summon. I think the deck can be quite fragile in regards to walking into a Nibiru. I think it's an extra summon that you don't necessarily need. Yes, the add to hand and the put one back is nice, but it didn't get me anywhere. It was just an additional summon. And the fusion monsters as well, they don't really synergize with the kit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You can summon it, but Albaz won't let you fuse using your side of the field, with the exception of the Albaz anyway. It's got to be your opponent's side. So I didn't think that was beneficial in any way, shape, or form. Again, it's open to interpretation. A lot of decks going forward may play 3, but I'll be sticking to none.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. It's always good to hear, like, especially when people are using like different ratios, different lineup to other people, just hear kind of like the thought process behind it. I'm sure people in the comments will have their own opinions and things like that, but it's always good to hear it in case people are interested in why. So, okay, fair enough. Right, let's move on. So we've got Dramaturge. I think a one-off seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, I was flip-flopping between 1 Dramaturge and 1 Ad Libitum, and not both, because I mean, as good as it is, yes, it's a Despia in hand to do stuff with. Ideally, you want to make the Masquerade. I love Masquerade so much. I think it's such a slept-on card in the deck compared to anything else. Yes, you can go Albion and then you can go off that way, but I think Masquerade is probably my favorite card of this format. Actually, it gets around mine. Like Mystic Mind is rampant in this format. We'll get into the matchups that I had, but Masquerade for me was just the staple card. I always made it, and the Dramaturge was great to negate something. That was effectively why I played it. It was again another negate over the ad libitum. That's why I decided to keep it in.
Okay, fair enough. Triple Aliba. I don't think we need to talk about that. Card's insane.
Pretty standard, yeah.
Triple Tragedy. I think this is like one of the best allure targets in the deck, right? It's just really strong.
Absolutely is. Yeah. It's banish it, send it to grave, search something. Okay, seems pretty good.
We have one Ecclesia.
Yeah, so I love Ecclesia. So I played Ecclesia and Snow. I played one of each. And I couldn't decide whether to drop one. Now, if you're playing against Sword Soul and if you go say first, for example, you have a Snow Engrave. If you book that the monster, they're effectively left with a face down monster and a token. Say there's some Moe, for example, they reveal a Wormhole Sword Soul in hand.
Mm-hmm.
They get a token. You can then chain the Snow to flip the Sword Soul. There's not much they can really do about that. Another thing I was doing was I would fusion summon into the Albion. I'd end on an Ice Jade, and then if any monster that I had left on field, for example, I had an Aluba, I'd activate the effect of the Ice Jade, send an Albion to grave. Then I'd banish one of my own Despia monsters. Then during the end phase, I get the effect of the Albion Engrave and the Ecclesia to return to hand, so you effectively plussed. So you could set the brand in red for your opponent's turn, and then you could make the Guardian Chimera.
Mm-hmm.
I found that to be more beneficial because you can pop more, and I feel like it basically readies it up. The Mirror Blade, sorry, I keep calling it Ice Jade. The Mirror Blade effectively gets you much further if you just banish something. You can't use it during your opponent's turn, obviously, but that doesn't particularly matter because you can just get rid of the Mirror Blade for a Chimera. It's just, yeah.
Okay, cool. Cherries, this is a pretty savage choice. I respect it. How did it go?
So before the event, somebody came up to me and was like, I've just seen your deck list and I see that you're playing Cherries in the main. You are absolutely insane. And I was like, I really liked Cherries. So Cherries for me, it was more damage limitation. I realized that I'd actually be massacring the Mirror Blade name. It's Mirror Jade the Ice Blade. So sorry about that.
You're good.
Yeah. So Cherries, I played it because my thinking was if they normal summon Aliba, or if they normal summon say any Despia monster, which would normally be Aliba because you wouldn't really normal summon any of those, or the Albaz, you can Cherries reveal your own Lubellion, and then they have to banish their Lubellion. Now, it came up against in the mirror, and I actually it worked. So Albion banishes, and then Lubellion resends back. But if they can't make the Lubellion, then they're limited in what they can do, because then their board ends up subpar compared to what they would normally end on, and that was what I was really going for. It was more like a control element to it. Yeah. So the normal playline is basically Albion make the Lubellion shuffle back, usually either the Albion or Lubellion to make the Mirror Jade. But if you get rid of the target, then it'll effectively, there's nothing they can really do. They can end on a Mirror Jade pass, or a Masquerade normally, and either of those you can deal with.
Yeah.
It came in clutch for me. That I love Cherries. I think Cherries is one of those cards where it's a very underrated hand trap, in that it's never seen a real format where it defines the format.
I think maybe the exception of Spiral.
Yeah. Arguably, yeah. You could say Spiral. I didn't actually play Spiral format. I was taught when I said before about flip flopping.
Oh yeah,
I avoided
you
that
didn't
format.
miss
So
out. Trust me, you didn't miss out.
Yeah, I missed that format. So yeah, that was the logic behind it. The Obviously you got Ogre, Ash, all extremely good hand traps. I didn't, choose. I didn't pick any of them, play any of them. But Cherries was the one where I was like, this. I was expecting a lot more Despia than I actually played against. My loss. We'll get to that in a minute, but you'll see. The round one loss was, it was like, oh right, okay, Cherries is going to probably cause that. I did open Cherries game one for that as well.
Yeah.
It's a great card. I think it should have more of an impact on the metagame than it actually does. Maybe in time that'll come round more, but that was why I mained it. It just hit the Rebellion, and there's not to see what they can do with that. And if they can play through that and make a big board, fair play, dude, and they probably deserve to win.
Yeah.
But hitting the Rebellion for me was pretty good.
Cool. I mean, that all makes sense to me. Up next is Crow. Now, Crow, I think I understand here because it's like a lot like Bell, but you can play it in the mirror under Lost, and it actually does things. I guess is that the logic?
It's also an allure target.
True.
It's so Therian, pretty good deck. I've thought if I was going to come against it, I would like to banish the grave target. Because obviously the regulars, even though it would summon, if it targets the card in grave, you can banish it. So that would come up. The allure, it's a great allure target. It's a dark, and if they try an Albion, you can DD Crow away their Fallen of Albaz, and then they're forced to resolve it from hand if they have it. Or they can, that was basically the logic behind it. Crow's great. Crow's really, really good this format. I think it's one of the best hand traps this format, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Fairy Tale Snow, I don't think we need to say too much about Fairy Tale Snow. This card's cracked. Like,
why they
insane.
put that card back to 1, I don't know.
I'm here for it.
No idea. Like, oh no, I love it. Like, it's great. I just don't know why they did it. It was daft. They just kind of we'll just do that. Okay, sure.
Triple Engine Chain. I think everyone's playing this engine now. It's really, really strong. Like super ultra mega plus. Just
it's insane. It's nuts. Whether they decide to do something about that during the December ban list remains to be seen, because the latest Albaz fusion, I believe it can add polymerization. Let me just get the actual word up for it, because I'm fairly certain from what I've. It's one of those cards. It never really comes up because a lot of people don't really play it. So it adds a polymerization normal spell or one fusion normal spell from your deck to a hand during the end phase of the turn. Maybe that's how they kind of they slap it a little bit. It does need something doing to it. I think it's too good. Chimera is just one hell of a house as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think an awful lot of this now I think is pretty standard. We've got the triple branded opening, branded in red, pretty normal. A lot of people are playing theatre at the moment, so that seems normal.
So we played 2 branded in red. Third one I found was Bricky. Didn't really get started, so you have to play it at 2. Honestly, the theatre came up once. I'd consider. I don't think it will last very long in the format. I think it may get to a point in the game where people just decide to drop it. It's a good card, don't get me wrong. I just think we're going to hit a point when other things will just be better than it. It's not a terrible card by any means. It's a good card. I just think it doesn't do enough.
Yeah.
I think other things may just take precedence over it. That will remain to be seen, obviously.
Triple branded fusion. Again, nothing to say about this. Card's fucked. Branded lost at 1. I think this is the standard now as well. Card's very strong.
Yeah. Meltdown. It's fantastic.
Yeah, literally. Triple allure. This is, again, not much to say about this. Dig deep. Trigger effect. It's a bit like Thunder Dragon, right? It feels like the first deck in a while where you go plus off allure for once.
Yeah, I mean, before we get to that, so Branded Lost is actually a lot more cracked than a lot of people realize. So Branded Lost you don't even have to use a branded fusion. Just if you, your opponent can't negate the activations of any fusion monster. So it's like, for example, say if you were to play Shadow Fusion, same principle.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like, as a card, it's insane. Allur's great. Like, Allur's always been one of those really great cards. I just kind of hope this isn't what tilts it over the edge. And people just kind of go, "Oh no, it's too good." It's a fantastic card. Draw 2, banish 1. Sure, okay, that's so fair. It's so fair. Insane.
I think. Do you know what? I think weirdly, Allur's in a weird spot where for the longest time I've always been in love with this card because again, back in the like Telidad days and stuff like that, this was just like an iconic card, right? And I feel like though since Thunder Dragon, this really hasn't had many decks where you actually plus off of it. Like, you're going essentially 2 for 2, right? You're like drawing 2, you lose the card itself and the one you banish. Now, most decks, when you're doing this, you're not getting anything off that banish, whereas I think this is the first deck really that sticks out to me since Thunder Dragon, at least to my mind, where you're actually like, this is insane. This banish means literally nothing to me. I'm going plus.
Yeah, I'm going to search something else as well.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's just...
Okay, right. Triple tactical talents.
Okay, so a lot of people are playing cross-out Designator in this deck, and it's seen a lot. Obviously, Designator is great. However, the thing I didn't like about Designator was that you have to play one of each hand trap to stop it. And the thing I didn't like about that is that if you open that, then you're not really going to do much with it, and you've got more chance of bricking on it. So I decided to play triple tactical talents instead. I played 2 of. 3 of obviously is a brick. I don't think many people play 3, but 2 was fine. It actually came up against Sky Striker, so I made Masquerade and couldn't do much else. Opponent played Mystic Mine, and then I was like, this is fine. I had a set Fawn of Albats, and then my opponent made the Shizuku. I activated Branded Fusion prior to the Mystic Mine being dropped. They ashed it, so I took the Shizuku, and then I super polyed off my Fawn of Albaz and their Shizuku into the Mirror Jade.
Ah, there you go. Came up.
It could, yeah. So there's 2 ways I could have done it. I could have done either took the Shizuku and gave it back so it go to main monster zone. But I was like, that's not going to give me any sort of board advantage.
Yeah.
So in the end, I just thought, no, I'll just get rid of it. But yeah, it came up. It really did come up. Talents is a house of a card. I'd like, let's just make a card with 3 forbidden card effects. Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Most of this stuff I think remaining now is pretty self-explanatory. Foolish Burial, yeah, card's good. Triple Patchwork, again, that engine's very, very strong.
Yeah.
Call by the Grave, still a very, very strong card. I think we're probably going to see this banned at some point.
I think it has to happen, unfortunately.
I like it, but it's a shame.
Yeah, I think it's one of the... It's one of those cards where if you open it, it's like, okay, I'm just going to play through anything that you're going to try and throw at me. Brand Fusion, Ash, sure, go by. Let's keep playing. It's like the Jeremy Clarkson meme. He goes, anyway.
Yeah, literally.
Go by. Anyway. But yeah, it's a great card.
Poly cards. So we got 2 polys themselves. Again, not much to say in that regard. And triple super poly. This card's, yeah, in this deck, it's just insane.
Yeah, so this is why, like, again, the ad libitum, I needed something on board to play the 3rd super poly. I did test it with 2, and it works. 2, so 1 ad libitum and 2 super polymerization does work. But I played the 3 because I didn't want to open up with the ad libitum and the super poly with nothing else. And that would have, that's a problem basically, because you just go, no, this is not the one, chief. So that's why I dropped ad libitum, because I wanted to get that sort of response. I wanted to interrupt my opponent as much as possible. The Sky Striker matchup was really interesting because my opponent forgot that the Hornet Drones tokens are dark.
Yeah.
So you can just poly it off into a Masquerade using a Despia.
Cheers then.
Oh yeah, yeah, sure. Like, drones, short token, that's fine. Super poly, yep. Normal Ray, that's also fine. For Super Poly, yeah, sure. Make Masquerade, sure. Not Masquerade, sorry, make it, yeah. Make a Lubellion, it was, sorry.
Yeah.
So, clutch. Super Poly is one hell of a card. It's one of those cards where a time went by where it didn't really do much because a lot of decks just weren't playing it because I don't think fusion decks were doing too much at the time.
Yeah.
And I think now actually this is mirrored now in Zeus. Like, look at how good Zeus is as a card, and then look at how many decks that are tier like 1 are playing it. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
I don't think there's many Exceed decks that are actually being played at the moment I can think of. It's mostly Synchro and Fusion. God forbid we ever get a Pendulums back.
Could happen.
Imagine. Oh, I hope not. I really hope not.
Right, I think onto extra deck. I don't think there's much to say here. Again, I think this is all pretty standard. I'll run through them quick, then you can tell me if there's anything that's sort of different, I guess.
Out, yeah.
So we've got the 2 Mirror Jades, a Lubellion, a Caritis, however it's pronounced, Sprind, the new Alba Lenatus, Brygrand, 2 Albion, a Proskenian, can't pronounce that bloody card, Masquerade, we've got double of that, double Chimera, and a single Starving Venom. So any comments on those?
Okay, so this is pretty standard. The only thing different compared to most builds that I've seen is I played 1 Lubellion. People are playing 2. I play 1. I feel like you don't need to play 2. It's sort of like the branch gap to get you to the mirror. I feel like 1 was fine. 1 did perfect for me. Caritis is fine. Sprint is insanely good because if you super poly off your opponent's monster with an Albaz, you can clear off the column, which probably gets rid of anti-spell.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Excellent. The Brigand actually came up, surprisingly. My opponent dropped the Rise of the Mega Monarch on me.
Yeah.
And I managed to super poly it off. Into that, and it was like, what is this card? And it was like, basically you can only target this card.
Hey, it comes up.
It did come up. It really did come up. The Proskenian actually came up as well, which was really weird. I didn't think it would, but it did. So I was playing round 4 in the most obscure matchup ever. I played against FA. as in yeah, like this guy was at he basically finished on Berserker with a Tenyi and Motorhome, which is the light and the dark. So right. I normaled Alba and then made the Proskenian use them both, brought back his own Tenyi, and then proceeded to beat him down with it. That was a very interesting. It really came up, and I was really surprised. I think I made that more than I made the Starving Venom, to be perfectly honest with you. I think the rest are pretty standard, to be fair. I would consider playing a 3rd Masquerade. I think it's too good not to. The only question is, what would you drop for it?
Yeah, this card is very strong.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, you must pay. Okay, you've got to pay this. Sure, that's fine. As a card, it's just ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, obviously, if it goes to grave, this is one for the listeners or readers or watchers. If it goes to grave and comes back, it forgets it was fusion summoned, so your opponent doesn't pay. That's very important to note. Yeah. It was just crazy. Masquerade's one hell of a card. I love it. I genuinely love it. I think it could be my new Colossus.
Love is in the air.
Yeah.
Okay, so onto the side deck. Triple Nibiru. I think decks, and especially this deck, doesn't really respect Nibiru.
No, and I think Nibiru. It was a point where, especially when Brave came out, like, Nibiru was just like, oh yeah, sure, I'm just gonna stop you on Nibiru using my rider. It's like, oh, okay. A lot of people kind of fell out of love with it, but I think it's still pretty good. It's one of those cards where it hits a lot of decks, and a lot of decks don't really expect people to side it for some reason. It's quite slept on at the moment, but I think it will come good again fairly soon.
Yeah, it ebbs and flows, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, Droll. I think this is the most high impact hand trap in the game.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's probably the best hand trap in the game right now. It hits everything.
And I think the decks that it does hit, it cripples as well. It doesn't just like slow them down; it just stops their turn.
Yeah, if they just have to go, oh well, I guess I'll just do it the best that I can without adding. It's insane. I mean, Droll. Like it's one of those cards. It was because obviously it was it Starstrike Blast? I think the first print was. It's an old card, but it's great to see old cards have so much relevance in today's game. It's just insane. It's such a good card, Droll. Yeah. I can't really say much more about it other than what a card is. It's just, it's nuts. It's really nuts.
Well, interestingly, that leads us quite nicely onto the next card, because both of these absolutely batter the same deck. We've got Necrowild Banshee and Zombie World.
Yeah, great card. Both of them. Banish for cost, yeah. Activate Zombie World from deck, sure. The Wanderers just kind of go, oh, no.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying.
Yeah, they have to out it. They just have to at that point.
Yeah. Okay, triple Cosmic. I still really like Cosmic. I know a lot of people are going to Twin Twisters. I think Cosmic's still great.
Yeah. To be honest, I may very well. It didn't come up. I didn't play it. I put them in. I just didn't see them. I'd probably went over them. Obviously, there's a new. I don't know if you've seen it. There's a card that just came out in Battle of Chaos called Sales Ban, I believe it's called.
Yeah, this card is cracked.
Have you seen the little niche interaction between Sales Ban and Mystic Mine?
Go on then.
Right, so I don't know if this is actually correct. This is what I've been told. So this is just a theory, and I need to read the cards. I don't have them in front of me. So if you can activate Mystic Mine, and then you activate Sales Ban. Now, Sales Ban, let me just get the wording for Sales Ban up, because this is important. So obviously, normally how people play Field Barrier and Mystic Mine.
Yeah.
Right. So, Sales Ban reads as this. Declare one card name. For the rest of this turn, your opponent cannot activate cards or the effect of cards with the same original name as that declared card. The same restrictions apply to you, but for the rest of this duel instead of this turn. You can
Mystic Mine activates.
One Sales Ban per turn. Exactly, it does activate. So, therefore, it's like, I think people will start playing Sales Ban over Field Barrier, and because of that, I think they may, Cyclone may come out a little bit, and people might start playing Twisters. That's what I may very well start doing because of that. I think that's going to take off. Mystic Mine is just... why is it still a 3? Why?
I love the card. I can't say anything. I love it.
It's so unhealthy. It's just,
it is
such an unhealthy card.
Yeah, it's certainly polarizing.
Yeah.
Harpies Feather Duster. I mean, generic back row removal, right? Punish your opponent.
Yeah, you have to. I didn't really have anything in the side that could do it. The next card, which I'll explain obviously a little bit more about when we get to it, but Duster's great. Duster's, I have to get rid of like everything on my opponent's side of the field, especially against like Eldritch. They can just chain it. I want to force them to do that interaction. Before I do anything. For example, if they chain the Conquistador, then chain link to the Sanguine, you want to be able to go, right, you've got nothing left that you can trump me with. I'm now going to go off on you, and it's your fault for setting 5 back row. And if you play 5 back row decks, then you deserve it.
And I guess you've always got the kind of weird scenarios where, for example, I'm sure this is where you're going with this, but you can reboot and set them and force them. Or, of course, if you've opened like a Cyclone with it as well, and they are playing, for example, Eldritch, you can always just chain the Cyclone and target something that you want to banish instead, because they've now had to reveal them.
Yeah, so I played Reboot because I was petrified of Anti-Spell.
Yeah.
That was because it just turns off my entire deck. And it was like, there's nothing I can do. Anti-Spell just really, really stings. There's nothing I can do to it. A full turn as well. It's like, yeah, Anti-Spell wrecks. It really does hurt. That was why I Reboot. I'd much rather risk. I'd rather risk getting the hurt off the Reboot and take the loss. Take the life point loss. Then yeah, it's a nonsense card. I actually think it's just going to be a very unpopular opinion. I think it should go to 2. Red Reboot. I think there's too many trap decks.
Interesting opinion. I'll leave that to the people in the comments.
I'm full of unpopular opinions. Don't worry about it. Get used to it after a while.
I've seen enough on Facebook, but yeah, no comment.
Football related.
Yeah, usually. Okay, and speaking of I guess pinky cards, whether you prefer to call them pink or not, I don't know. D-Barrier, 2 of those, just the 2, I guess, for space.
Yeah, I saw them. They came up. It did help. It's D-Barriers. It's really good against Sword Soul.
Yeah.
It also is really good against Despia as well. You don't particularly mind turning off your own cards if it's going to stop your opponent from making the fusions. That's fine. It's like a sacrifice that you're willing to make.
Well, you've already got the board presence at that point, usually, anyway.
Basically, yeah. If you've got the board presence, you effectively just want to stop them making things, keep your board presence. If they can't attack over something, like if they can't hit over, say, a Guardian Chimera, then it's it's fine. Like that's not a problem. You'll let that go.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that indeed rounds off the list, nice and detailed. So this will be an in-depth profile. If anyone has bothered to listen to the end and maybe they're interested in learning about the deck, they'll get much more information than your bog standard. Just flip through everything out the way. So thank you for taking the time to do that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, not a problem at all. Any comments before we go?
I've just received word that I'm apparently head judging an event in July called Manchester MegaCon. I don't know much about it right now. All I know is that it's happening.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, I've done my shout outs. Ridge, Matt, Ant, he's great. G, that last game. Oh, my round. So round 1 was Fluenderies. I lost.
It's a hard match for this.
It's very difficult. Short, yeah, it's nuts. Round 2 was a draw. I went 3-1-1. Striker was round 3. FA was round 4, which is... I honestly, I feel like I got let off with that one, and then I beat Fluenderies in the final round of the day.
The arch nemesis beaten.
Yeah. I can't. That deck is just... it's such a problem. Like you have to play like every hand trap in the game to get around it. Like you have to... yeah, it's one of those. If you play Ash, it's fine. If you don't play Ash, you're gonna suffer for it.
Yeah.
Don't play cherries against Fluenderies, kids.
Yeah, that does very little. Okay, all right. Thanks again for taking the time to do the profile. Of course, congratulations on that first top. Hopefully, here's to many more. Yeah, not much else to say. So, guys, if you're watching at home, thank you very much for watching along this far into the video. I do really appreciate it. If you haven't already, definitely hit subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.